You can do whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you have your heart set on. I think the China admissions platform was a very good tool for you to do research, whether you're still studying or still working in your home country. And then when you're a bit more serious as to your plan and your finances, then you can start working with the China admissions team. And then eventually you'll have a very interesting experience, and you'll continue on with your educational journey and your professional profile.
Hello everyone, I'm Alifia from China Admissions, and today I'm here with one of our students, Jay. He's currently studying Chinese language program at Shanghai Jiao Tong University. He applied through our platform China Admissions, and in this video, I'll be interviewing him about his experience applying to study in China through our platform. How was it adapting for the Chinese culture? Did any cultural difference stand you out? And did you face any challenges adjusting to the life in China? And how did you overcome them?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's cultural differences in China, but personally, I've spent some time here already, so it hasn't been that tough for me. Language can be a barrier. Let me give a. I've lived in China before, to be honest, so it wasn't too weird culturally. And Shanghai is a bit more cosmopolitan. So I guess, Alifia, it would depend where you went, right? If you went to a tier two city or a school in a more inland province, it's going to be very local, and it'd be a great experience, but it'd be very different from back home, depending where the person is from.
And what do you think about the university, the professors, and the classmates in your university so far?
As mentioned, I'm studying at the Chinese Language Institute. I think to a certain extent, it might depend what level you're going into. In first semester, I was in a specific program. I won't go into it too much. It's called Huaiban. It's for people of Chinese heritage that maybe grew up speaking Chinese at home, but that they're not very literate because they never formally studied Chinese at university, in undergrad, or in high school. I was in this Huaiban class with all these like Indonesian Chinese, or someone from the United States that's like American, but they spoke Chinglish their whole life with their parents, something like that. So my point is, these types of people, everyone's Chinese was decent, to be honest. And I find the teachers, yeah, are very good, very serious. It's their profession. Shanghai Jiao Tong University happens to be quite a good university, so I guess it has good caliber professors. And to be honest, I bet other, I would assume, I would hope that all universities have good caliber professors. Class size is something to think about. I switched the class because I found it was too many people. It had like 35 people in the first 2 days. So that affects, in my opinion, learning environment, how many people are in the class. Anything less than 20 is good. Our Huaiban was like 13 people. It could be even less if people didn't show up, if they're sick. So sometimes it was like 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. It was a good learning experience. Yeah. So, and you really have to keep up with your self-study, though. I find in a normal stream, when you're doing 5 courses, a new lesson per week per 5 individual courses, it's a lot. Yeah, it's almost too much. I don't know if it's too much, but sometimes you see the professors really trying to get through a lesson because they have to, they have to get through it, because then the next week you can do another one. So you really need to either pre-review or post-review. If you don't, you're not going to absorb the lesson enough in some classes because it's too short. So so yeah, a full-time language program is 20 hours a week, because you should be doing like 25 hours of self-study in the same week. 20 or 25, you should be doing like 3 to 5 hours a day by yourself. So that comes out to about 40 hours a week, right? 45. It's like having a job, but you're studying, meaning it's a 45-hour work week.
I see. It's very comprehensive. And how is it? How about the student activities? I mean, like, is it easy making friends there? Yeah, that's many questions about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, you make friends, but I mean, you make friends with the Language Institute is its own building. And so non-Chinese students are in the Chinese Language Institute for foreign students. So you'd be making friends with other, foreign students that are studying at the Language Institute. You're not interacting with Chinese students because you're not doing, a degree program with them. Um, and even if you were some of the degree programs that are in English, well, you'd also be with foreign students, right? You'd only be with Chinese students if you were like HSK level 5 or 6 and wanted to do it in Chinese, which is pretty rare. So you make friends, but you make good friends. You make friends, you spend a lot of time with these people. And you mentioned extracurricular activities. Yeah, the school offers, and other schools do, by the way, because I had done my research. I know. So examples of extracurricular activities, some can still be a bit academic. Like, for example, the one that I chose to take was etymology of Hanzi. So etymology means, right, the history of like characters, the origin story of characters, because some characters are a few thousand years old. So there's an evolution to like now simplified Chinese based on a few hundred years ago it used to be this, and 1,000 years ago there's an origin story to that. So that was interesting.
That's very interesting story. And what do you think? Like, how has studying in China, you think that it will impact to your future goals or maybe career plans?
Yeah, so a lot of students have this conversation with each other, and people, they're in different stages of their language journey or life journey. There's people that the age is it ranges from 18 years old to like 62. There's people of such a vast, different stages of their lives. So yeah, for me, I mean, being like a mid-career professional now, a bit more tenured than maybe some people, um, my experience in China and my handle in the Chinese language had already started to be a component of my career, has sort of been a part of the past two jobs I've had, for example. So yeah, I want to make an effort to further solidify that aspect of my professional profile. Um, well, you would assume it opens doors, whether it's back home or in China. I actually was supposed to do a certain job in China and moved to Jiangsu for that job, but COVID sort of squashed that job, unfortunately. Yeah, right. A lot of things got canceled eventually because China had COVID for a long time. So I'm just giving an example where in fact, I was supposed to go to for work for like a joint venture between a Canadian company and a Chinese company. Didn't happen, but that was a year and a half ago. So yeah, I could only hope that I'll have to decide where I stop my language journey. I think they sort of just keep going. But yeah, I would hope it opens some doors or further solidifies my professional profile.
Let's talk about your experience with China admissions. How did you first hear about China admissions, and why did you choose to apply to through the China admissions?
Yeah, and I can answer this question a little bit, not only always talking about myself studying at Chinese Language Institute, because I'm very well aware that some people pursue undergrads or masters in China and perhaps through China admissions. I don't remember how I came across China admissions. Probably through just some old-fashioned Google SEO type activities, meaning you guys caught my eye one way or another. I was researching some Chinese schools that I knew probably, and I just came across the platform. So I used I used the China admissions platform for a long time for research purposes. It's basically like a tool that allows you to proceed with your own research. I probably used the China admissions tool for research purposes for I don't know how long, like maybe like 2 years. Long enough that even I noticed the tool getting better. I was just intermittently using the China admissions platform to do my research. I usually did my research. I was like geographically oriented. I was usually searching by schools within certain Chinese cities because I've worked or lived in some Chinese cities before. So I had an idea of where I wanted to land. And then Alifia, as I when you get into more like the life decision of, okay, now I think next year is I'm ready to move forward. Um, that's when I actually like I think reached out to a team member. No, I think because things were laid out quite straightforward, what was needed to start the application process. I actually did not reach out to someone because I was not confused, and I actually submitted it. Then it was my job. I had to get what I needed for my to commence my submission, my application. And then I formally became a client of China Admissions, meaning I actually paid X amount to have an account. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe you register for free, but then you pay. I don't remember, but I sort of finally actually registered an account because those previous 2 years I always used the tool, but I was never had a profile because I didn't need a profile. When I decided I was ready to start applying, I formally became a client. I then proceeded to not submit my application, but submit individual things that I needed to have a complete application, right? Which would be maybe your academic transcript, proof of your diploma, maybe a professional resume. I mean, different schools, different programs have different requirements, right? And then, if I remember correctly, the China admissions platform sort of in an automatic way, it tells you like, are you missing something or are you not missing something? And because I was waiting on something that was a bit difficult for me to get, which was my academic transcript. And then anyways, eventually, yeah, what I needed, I knew, as well as the platform was automatically telling me that it was ready to be completed. And then I believe I started liaising by email with someone on your team. But to be honest, I wasn't confused and I was sure where I wanted to go. So we just proceeded to, to submit my application. And then eventually, yeah, I was accepted to the program I applied. And then personally for me, like that's when I actually started, I had a call or two with China admissions staff because for me, it was more about actually I had some visa questions about differences between like X1, X2 visas. Should I try and tackle my visa in Canada at the embassy, or should I do it on the ground in China at the like public security office, which I'm not going to get into it because some people won't even know what I'm talking about. But that was my journey. But I think if some people, I wasn't so confused. This is a language program, but let's say, for example, someone was applying for a master's. I could see that person maybe wanting to do a consultation with a China admissions team member because you'd want to get more into the academics of the program. This school versus other schools. Whereas for a Chinese language program, it was a bit more straightforward, I believe. So I sort of just proceeded without a consultation. I actually had consultations. I did have one consultation post application, to be honest, but I wasn't so. I sort of knew what I wanted to do. And like I said, anyways, the China admissions team was there, whether I wanted to dig deep into comparing academic programs. In my case, to be honest, I didn't. But they were there when I had some pertinent visa questions because it can be a bit complicated. So that's good to know that the door was open. And yeah, and I'm sure you might have other questions for me about the process.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience with China admissions and why?
I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. Because sometimes some program information was not kept up to date. And I suspect that it's probably the responsibility of the school to give their up-to-date, for example, spring 2025 program information. And if they don't, then I guess it makes sense that the last year's information, the previous year's information is still there, but that doesn't help me as to wanting to find new information. It's a great tool. So, I mean, it would be almost impossible to start sort of out here and then dig deeper as to, filtering specific programs you want, specific cities, within certain budget constraints, certain cities, degree program, non-degree program, all these things you can do yourself, and I think you should do yourself. It's not China Admissions' job to do that. You can do that yourself, and I think you should with the China Admissions tool. You do that yourself, narrow it down to maybe your top 3 target programs, and then I think you could request or pay for a consultation, whether you have 1 or 2, and then that should help you make a decision whether you move forward applying to only 1 program or maybe 2 or maybe all 3. And then it's going to be your job to submit what you need to apply to those 2 or 3 programs. And then we'll hear whether you get accepted or not. And then it'll be time to make sure before you arrive in China that you have all of the documentation you need to legally be a resident in China and to attend the program. And China Admissions can help you with that as well. And like I said, that's actually mostly what I actually liaised a little bit about with one of your colleagues, because I had some questions about that. So it's a great platform, and I've actually liaised with different people, China Admissions team in the last year and a half. Maybe I'll probably continue to be a partner and client to China Admissions. And it's been great liaising with your team. And like I said, the tool, the search platform itself is, it's built so that you can use it. It's your responsibility to start the journey. So China Admissions is good that it's built so you can do your own research, and then when you're ready, you can move forward.
Okay, the last questions. What advice would you give for the future international students? For example, they want to apply and study in China.
Yeah, I mean, one, I got into it a little bit talking about language program. Like I think a little bit. I really. A little bit personally think people should have definitely a foundation in the language before they deep dive into a pretty demanding full-time Mandarin program. But I mean, maybe have some exposure to China before you decide you want to study here. That's just me though, because maybe some people come to study here and they've never been here in their life. That's pretty cool. I mean, I've also made such decisions where I've went to places that I've never been to before for work and study. It's not all roses though. You need to be prepared for being a foreigner. You need to be prepared for not understanding things a lot. You need to be prepared for being away from your families and friends, maybe feeling that you're alone a lot. I mean, I'm alone a lot. Behind me is where I live. It's no one, so I'm here alone all the time, mostly. So life will change. You'll be alone. You'll be in a new country. You won't know the language. There'll be the frustrations of simple things are not simple. Like I mentioned, navigating some apps which are in Chinese only. Some the bigger ones you can translate to English. These are like growing pains, or not being used to the new environment, your new life. So these are some of the difficult or growing pain types of things. But you can also look forward to new experiences, to improving your Chinese language skills, or if you're pursuing, for example, a master's. I mean, obviously at the end you're going to have a master's. So you're building your professional profile, and you'll meet new friends and have new experiences, and maybe build your network too, your professional network and your network of friends, and keep in touch. Those are some of the observations that I have or that I can share. You can do whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you have your heart set on, and I think the China Admissions platform was a very good tool for you to do research, when you're still studying or still working in your home country, and then when you're a bit more serious as to your plan and your finances, and taking a break from work or school, then you can start working with the China Admissions team. And then eventually you'll be here and you'll have a very interesting experience, and you'll continue on with your educational journey and your professional profile. And yeah, you'll also come across some things that are tricky, language barriers, and who knows, getting lost or fun things like that. But that's a part of travel, and that's a part of studying abroad. So it's all good, and it all makes us better in the end. Thank you, Alifia, for your time.